I've flown a lot of RC things in my lifetime of flying RC things, but never something quite like this. Here we have an RC Paramotor from Razordon. Now, typically in the past, these things have been a bit of a nightmare because when they come, you have to assemble everything. You have to run all of the strings for the parachutes and whatnot, right lengths and all that kind of stuff. But this one comes right out of the box, ready to go. So even though this is quite different from your typical like RC plane or anything like that, the controls are really straightforward. We have 2 servos on here that are acting as basically like your pilot's arms, and instead of your pilot you have a 3S battery pack, but essentially just 2 servos that are going to be pulling on the toggles like you would a normal parachute. And then we have our brushless motor in the back with 3-bladed pusher props. So all in all, pretty straightforward stuff. Honestly, we have a really nice day out here today. Not a lot of wind, which I think is good because I expect this thing to have probably like the flight characteristics of like a kite. So less wind probably the better for something this size. So let's go ahead and get this thing all out on the ground here. Do have some spare parts, spare propellers, which is always nice. Comes in the little bag. Let's go ahead and get this thing all unfolded. Like I said, very nice that we didn't have to worry about setting up any of these strings or anything like that, because I feel like that would have been a little bit of a nightmare considering how many are on here. So we're gonna do our best not to get this entirely all tangled up to the best of our possibilities. Quite the hefty radio, essentially for not having a ton of channels on it. You actually get, you know, quite a bit of functionality, many switches, reversing, all that sort of stuff. One thing I did notice so far though is that there's no throttle cut set up on here, so just be wary of that, especially when you're dealing with a bunch of like string and cords and things like that. You have a pusher prop back there. The last thing you want is to, you know, power this thing up on wherever you are and have the motor spin up and wrap all of that into the motor, because that's how you just end up with a disaster. So just be mindful of that. If there is a way to set up some sort of throttle cut on here, I'll let you know, but as far as I know, there is not. So that being said, we're gonna make sure our throttle is all the way down. Just hold the power button here. When I powered this up at home, everything seemed good to go. Like I said, we have a 3S 2200 LiPo battery pack chilling in here as our pilot for today. We're gonna get this plugged in. We're just gonna do one of those. Hopefully not nosedive it into the ground. So find which direction our wind is coming from. I believe the wind is coming right at us here. Give this a little bit of throttle. Okay, well, it's in the air. And it's flying pretty decent. Again, trying to figure out the throttle here. Again, you kind of see it start to swing around a little bit. So you don't want to be messing with the throttle entirely too much. Right here seems pretty dang settled, and it's really smooth. What a different flying experience. So there is dual rates on here. It's this switch right here. I did have to flip it in there because without the dual rates, it did seem really, really mild. Because even with the high rates, having to really push it all the way around here to get it to do what I would need it to do. Oh, that's okay. But other than that, just kind of cruising along here. Do a left turn. Surprisingly, really maneuverable when you do have to move the stick quite a bit, like I said, but it can turn kind of on a dime here. Let's go ahead and see if we can speed this thing up. So again, when you add throttle, it's going to want to climb. So that's kind of like your elevator in a sense, because if you pull back on the right stick like you would normally your elevator, it's going to pull the ends of the canopy in and it's actually going to come down. So kind of contradicting to how you would normally fly an airplane, but you're moving so slow, and if you got a nice open area like this, you're not going to get yourself into a whole lot of trouble. Let's see if we can cut the throttle here. Bring this thing down a little bit. Just see if we can get some nice flyby action. This thing is so neat. Definitely different. Definitely a different type of flying. I want to compare it to almost flying a helicopter in a sense, the way you have to like kind of modulate the throttle, but even then it's so different. It's not really comparable to anything that I've flown before, to be completely honest. Oh, we got a nice calm day out here. This thing is a freaking riot. Let's see if we can pick up the speed a little bit here. So I'm about half throttle right now. I think if you really kick this thing in, you'll get a lot of climb out of it. And then again, like I said, it is stunt capable. So it will do some backflips on us. So we're gonna bring it up a little bit. See if we can't do that here. All right, so we're gonna cut the throttle, let it kind of dip down, and then I'm gonna punch it and see what happens. So I'm not gonna lie, it just kind of does what it wants to do. And you just gotta let it do what it's gonna do for a second. Let it get back under control, because it's got more than enough power to fly along. Oh, stalled the chute. Don't do that. So it is a little bit tricky, not gonna lie. A little bit different to get used to. Probably half throttle or less is where you're gonna wanna sit. This is so cool. Again, probably something you wanna keep out on a real nice, calm day like today. I imagine you get some wind in front of this thing. My one concern would be that, you know, going back into the wind, having to apply more throttle to get back without it blowing away on you. You're also gonna be wanting to climb at the same time. So getting it back might be a little bit tricky in some really windy conditions. Let's go ahead and see if we can do one more loop or so on it. That was pretty fun. What a wild thing. And then, yeah, if you want to get out of like those aerobatic maneuvers, my recommendation, it seems like, you know, just cut off the throttle and then just pull back on like what would be your elevator stick, and it brings it back down to basically your normal controls. Right now it's just no throttle, it's just cruising. This is so neat. All right, we're gonna go ahead and try to bring this thing in for a landing here, and I'm gonna try my best to not get everything caught in the motor like I talked about before. So I think best course of action for a landing is to bring it around and just cut the throttle and let it do its thing. Maybe we'll pull back on that, I'm gonna call it the elevator stick here, just to slow down. I'm gonna bring it around actually. Get a little closer, we don't have to go walking nearly as far. And I can imagine you can get a really decent amount of flight time on something like this. Turn it around. Cut the throttle. Pull out on the stick. I think it's about as good as you're gonna get unless you go to try to catch it, which I wouldn't recommend because again, the throttle cut thing, but this thing flew super freaking cool. like I said, really, really different from your typical RC plane or anything like that. But if you want something different, this thing flew absolutely incredible. Let's go check it out. It did look like flipped a couple times here. So let's go ahead and make sure we got this all situated. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this before I hit the throttle on myself. So there you have it, the RC Stunt Paramotor from Razordon. What a unique little thing. Like I said, flew completely different from anything that I've ever flown in my lifetime, but it was honestly a lot of fun, really kind of cool to get used to and see what it can do. And on a nice day like today, absolutely just nice and chill little cruiser to kind of bum around with, and it's really, really unique. If you guys want to check this out for yourself, I'll put a link to it down in the description below. It is affiliate link, so if you do pick this up, it does give a little bit of kickback to me in the channel, so we can keep doing videos just like this, no extra cost to you. So if you want to go check this out, see what it's all about, I'll leave a link down in the description below. I'm Alex from Hangar 14 RC. We'll see you later.